Sheldon Whitehouse. I represent Rhode Island in the Senate, and I had the experience as a younger man to work in politics in ways that really proved to make a big difference. We did some very excellent problem solving when I was just getting started, and that gave me the confidence that politics really can solve problems, and the opportunity to serve in the Senate as a problem solver is a fantastic privilege. I think the looming public health challenges associated with climate change are going to be the biggest ones that we face, whether it's disease vectors expanding or crop failures leading to nutrition problems or simple violence as migration takes place away from either flooded or economically collapsed areas, or frankly coastal communities that are going to be more and more at risk of flooding and being underwater. There are going to be a lot of harms that emerge from that through a whole variety of different ways. I mean, we're basically losing our coral reefs right now around the planet, and they're kind of the incubators for the oceans. So if your diet somewhere depends on fish, then this is not a good turn of events for you, or at least not for your children. In fact, a lot of the solutions that we developed in the context of the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act came to us out of the public health community and out of the advocacy community. The baseline and probably most important core of it all was that addiction is an illness. It is not a moral failing. Treating it with shunning and with punishment and with silence is not appropriate or correct and doesn't work. Treating it with proper treatment, with counseling, with AA, all the things that do work, and making sure that people are able to access those services. They're not stigmatized out of it and they're not priced out of it, is the kind of core principle. And I think that's a very core public health principle. The initial slug of money that we got was $500 million. That has been distributed now out to the states. There was another 175 or so million that went through the last funding bill, basically under the new CARA programs. And there's another $500 million that has been promised that I'm hoping will come in the September funding bill and be tied more closely to CARA. And a good deal of that goes into prevention. Another place the public health community I think has a potentially very big role is in looking at how we reform our healthcare system. We're having a completely unproductive and off-point fight over healthcare here in Washington right now, while we have huge opportunities to improve the way Americans receive healthcare, but you've got to look beyond just the immediate delivery of the medical procedure. You've got to look more largely into their lives, and you've got to see what their needs are. And my favorite example is the Rhode Island insurance company that bought a guy an air conditioner because he was coming into the emergency room 40 times in the summer, and for 200 and something bucks they got him an air conditioner, and they saved $200,000 because he didn't come to the emergency room so much. And understanding the real problem was, which was that the guy was hot and lonely, and if you could address those issues, he didn't show up in the emergency room with imaginary complaints. I think the first thing that the public health community needs to understand is that it has a very determined adversary in fake science, and that adversary has considerable advantages over the public health community. It doesn't have to or care to go through peer review. It has essentially unlimited money behind it. And all it has to do is develop a simple message that creates a perception of doubt. It doesn't actually have to win a scientific debate. So those are all very powerful advantages. And I think in the same way that as a country we have a Department of Defense, or we have police departments to protect communities, the public health community needs to figure out how it's going to deal with this fake science adversary, which is not going away, and which has the intention to defeat real science at every point it chooses to contest it. We have an administration that is challenging a lot of the basic tenets of civilized society, relying on science, distinguishing between real news and fake news, allowing the systems of government to operate, and frankly honoring the rights of minorities to have their say, whether that's racial minorities or whatever kind of minorities, party minorities. And against that terrible pressure, what we are seeing is most of the institutions of government and of society standing up, pushing back, and being quite successful. It's like a stress test for the Constitution and for our social rules. We're seeing it actually work. So I would encourage people who are in the public health community, fight back. You know, stand up for what you're doing, and like the press under attack, like the courts under attack, like the minority party in Congress under attack, like a lot of the different groups that are under attack, you will find that if you stand up with your voice, you will prevail. You will hold your own, and maybe even better than hold your own.